Hello, it's time for another brief driver's debrief vlog. Today, which is the 23rd of November 2023, me and Tony drove off to the Hellmouth town, Tavistock, and went to a place that I realised I haven't been before, or maybe I've been but I didn't record, called Redmore Close. So we had to go through town before that, navigate several roundabouts. I realised that the first roundabout I didn't creep up to the line in first or go slow enough, and there was a peculiar car coming onto the roundabout who wasn't signalling in any direction, which Tony pointed out later they should have been signalling so we knew what they were doing, and apparently they were also hesitating in their movements, maybe because they saw us in an L car coming up. So I was approaching the roundabout in second, going a little bit too fast to make the observation of this crazy car, and so I couldn't work out what the car was doing when I was approaching the line, and I should have been in first gear because we approached the line and Tony had to stop us there because the car actually was coming over in front of us and they just weren't signalling correctly. So lessons learned from that, I've got to approach, I don't know if it's all mini roundabouts, but that mini roundabout in particular in first. I was telling Tony, you start off as a learner driver in the early stages with the mentality of, I have to go up to this mini roundabout or this junction and stop at this dotted line, and then look, and then go. Then, as an intermediate second stage of driving as a learner, they got me going in second gear up to roundabouts, saying, you've got to think that you've got to go. You ideally don't want to stop the car at all. You might have to stop the car, but you might have to go. So you're meant to go up in second gear, as if you're going to go. But doing that and getting used to that has made me forget the first step, what happens if I do have to stop. In which case you go from second to first, right at the last moment, and stop. Especially if a car doesn't have an indicator on. If you think a car's doing something screwy, then you want to just stop at the line anyway and figure out what they're doing before you continue. So there was that roundabout. The next roundabout, after the graveyard, I did okay, but he says watch out for lorries going onto it because they could go around the full length of the roundabout and swing around and use up tons of the road on their way off. There weren't any lorries today though, so I did that well. Kind of didn't get close enough to the crossing, the traffic light crossing that came after that. It was red, but I didn't get close enough up to the line. He says ideally you want to go up to the white line so you can't see it, so it vanishes underneath your bonnet, and then stop. So I hadn't thought of that. I always thought, I want to see the white line at least in the bottom of my windscreen, and he says you're kind of too far away from that. Also, he brought up something interesting, that some of those traffic light controlled crossings actually have a metal strip underneath the white line, and it detects, like, it's like a magnet thing. It detects when a car is perched just over the top of it, so it helps the traffic lights change. And if you don't go all the way up to the line, you're not going to get magnetically detected by this metal strip thing that is apparently under the road at some of these traffic lights. So I didn't know about that. I don't know if that's only Puffin or only Pelican or both or what, but so I need to come up closer to the line, and I think I actually stalled for a moment there, like when the lights went green and we had to go. For some reason I came up too fast off the clutch there and stalled, and he says, I don't know what it is about this place in Tavistock, it's like the Twilight Zone, all of my students keep stalling right here. So that's peculiar. And that's just right outside the town hall, basically, before the approach to the roundabout. Kind of outside the post office. So then we drove to the next roundabout and we were meant to be going straight on, but I didn't spot two pedestrians crossing the road because there's a raised bit after the roundabout which is meant to be a pedestrian crossing, but like a really unmarked one. So we had to stop for them, and I stopped late because I didn't notice them. Yeah, apparently the other driver was trying to wave them across, which is quite dangerous because drivers aren't meant to wave pedestrians across the road in front, because then they're kind of taking responsibility for the car that's coming up the side of them coming the same way, maybe in a left-hand lane, which I had an experience of while crossing to Morrison Supermarket the other day. Like, someone waved me across in front of the roundabout on the crossing, and there I noticed that there was another lane there, and if a car was coming up there, they wouldn't have been waving me across even though they're going parallel to the car that was. So that's kind of a dangerous thing, and I can understand why you're not meant to, as a driver, wave pedestrians across a crossing. Yeah, then we went up into the outskirts of town and found this place, Redmore Close. It was fairly easy getting there this time. I'm dealing with the tunnels a bit better. Redmore Close seems to be like a tiny spiral, like if you draw a lowercase e, it's that kind of shape. So we went up there to do parallel parking, and there was 2 parallel strips, like the top and the middle bit of the E is where we tried to do a parallel park. There was lots of residential cars like moving off and coming through, so we had to pause quite a few times and move on to the other spot quite a few times. But I did several of them, and the things that I learnt, or things that I got better at, and one thing that I learnt was you got to do observations all around you the whole time there. You're meant to look out the back, blind spot that, and you are trying to concentrate on your blind spot mirror, the inset mirror of the left wing mirror, but you can't concentrate on it the whole time, because then you get marked down for your observations and you could fail. So you can't just keep looking at it, you just kind of got to do that while looking at it. Get whiplash, keep doing it so many times. So you pull up alongside the car on the left. When you do that, you have to basically, he said before, get within an arm's width. I guess if the passenger were to stick their arms out, arm's width of the car next to you. That's hard to judge, although he said initially it was like less than a door's width. But later on he said you can come out further than that, so you can actually come out a door's width from the car to your left, or you can come out maybe a bit further even. But you have to get parallel, and you have to see the bonnet outside. Well, you have to go slightly past the bonnet, but maybe see the bonnet outside the passenger side window. While you're straight, go into reverse, do all your checks, check everywhere. And when you're certain, you got to figure out if you're on a hill. So if you're on a hill facing front down, you're going to be using the gas and the biting point and the handbrake, or P-brake in my case. Whereas if you're facing up, then you're going to be taking the handbrake off manually and using the brake to let go as gravity pulls you backwards. But we were more like that on both occasions this time, which is easier, I think. Don't need too much gas. I don't know how much gas the clutch biting point needs in that situation. I felt like I was feeding it some just in case to help it not stall. Anyway, you start reversing, and immediately you've got to start checking behind the passenger in your rear left window. When you see the bonnet of the car through that window, then you do one turn 360 degrees of the steering wheel, which isn't, as I said in my previous video on the subject, it isn't a full left-hand lock, which confused me the first time I did it. It's one turn, which isn't a full turn of the steering wheel. And then you move back until initially you were seeing the back or the front, depending on which way your target car's oriented, out of the rear left-hand window. Then you start moving back, and you're moving back in a turn at this point. And as soon as your wing mirror looks as if it's going to line up with the end of the target car, then you undo that one single 360 degree turn to the right. Now you're straight, you're no longer turning. Keep coming back in. And now my reference point, this is a new thing to me. At first I thought it was look in the blind spot mirror and look for a sickle shape, like a T-Rex claw in Jurassic Park, it's slightly wide at the bottom and slightly bent, or a Velociraptor claw, one of them. That's what I had written in my notes, look for a sickle, and then that's your key to stop. But that actually brought me out wider from the pavement every time I tried it. So, trying something new, you see the sickle happen at first, if the blind spot mirror wasn't a convex lens, it would just be like a pyramid. But because it's a convex lens, it curves the image, so it's a sickle. When you see the sickle, you don't do full right hand lock, which is the next move. You keep going back until the sickle is more like a tiny triangle. A tiny triangle. The sickle representing kind of the gap between your side wheels and the curb. When that becomes a tiny triangle this time, that is the correct time for full right hand lock, which I almost did wrong one time. I almost did left hand lock. And then you keep going until the sickle. At this point, you've probably got to do a bunch of checks, and I keep forgetting that. But at this point, you wait until the sickle becomes like a tapered line, I don't know how to do it. Like that, like a bent line. So it starts like that, and then it's got to become like that, with your rear door having a clear gap between the pavement. That's how you know you're parallel. You undo your full right hand lock, try and get back to central, and then stop as soon as you can, else you'll get too far out from the two cars' length, which is the one car's length between you and the target car in front of you. There, I've said it. Whew. That's the parallel parking, and hopefully I've explained the 2 or 3 new things. So we did that a few times until I kind of got good at it. I did 2 good ones unprompted, which was pretty cool. Then we went around to near the start of Redmore Close, and he got me doing on a curved bit of road, and he kind of surprised that he kind of jumped it on me. He said, we're going to do the pulling on the right side of the road and reverse 2 cars' length. So he did that, and I did it pretty well despite there being a curve in the road. I think we were actually a bit too far out the pavement to begin with, so I thought I was going to have to go back and then turn the wheel slightly to follow the curve of the road around. But actually, because we're a bit far away from the pavement, it was more ideal just to keep heading back in a straight line until we got closer, until we got 2 cars length, and then we were closer to the curb anyway, so that was kind of useful for actually just getting me in. Then we flew off through town to get to the wharf, which is the Art House Cinema car park, which also has a bigger car park behind it, which is for the swimming pool. We went once again into the wharf car park. It was starting to get busy. I don't know if it was around like school closing time, but there were lots of parents with little children coming through, so we had to watch out for them. At one point, the first time I did it, I missed the bay I wanted. We did rear, left, reverse bay parking, and then later we did rear right reverse bay parking. We didn't do any of the forward ones. So I started moving back and I completely missed the space. It was like one car, a space, and then a curb, and we're aiming for the one next to the car, and I just flew off and basically went on the middle line sort of thing. I was like, no, this is terrible, it's terrible. We need to start further forward and go slower. So he gave me lots of time to do it, lots of different occasions. We did like 4 occasions, I think. First it was trying to get in on the left of a blue car, which we were quite close to, and I was using the edge of the blue car like one of the bay lines, so that was useful because you couldn't actually see the bay line. So you use the edge of the car, which is a bit worrying because you wonder if you're going to hit as the bay line. When the edge of the car appears in your rear left-hand mirror, that's when you do a full left-hand lock and you see the line approach, or the edge of the car approach, in the blind spot mirror left, and then you see the edge of the line approach in the blind spot mirror right, which helps you straighten up or know when to straighten up. So we got 2 of those wrong, got 1 right prompted, and then I got 2 right unprompted. The last 2 I got unprompted were actually between 2 blue cars, so we actually found a space where there was a blue car, then a space for us, then a blue car. That's the first time I've done that, actually parking between 2 cars, and it worked out well. I managed to get it in between, and there was enough space for both doors to open, although slightly more space on my side. But I asked Tony, if you were to get out there, could you do it? And he said yes. So it wasn't as tight as I thought it'd be, and that was kind of cool that we did that. Then we did it. We were going to do it on the right of us, but there were just too many kids and too many parents like zooming around the place, so we decided to go zoom around to the Meadowlands car park, which is a lot bigger. It's got a weird one-way system, which I can't quite understand yet. I'll have to go in there again and figure out what's going on there. You can only exit from certain angles and arrive from certain angles now. But yeah, that one was more difficult. That was a rear right reverse bay park, and I think I got them both wrong pretty much. And part of it was not knowing how to do the corrections when you realise halfway through manoeuvre you've got it wrong and you're not going to get the line right. How to do you're meant to do corrections where you go back and forth and shuffle it to try and get yourself back onto the line. And I haven't a clue how to do that based on what I'm seeing in the mirrors and stuff. But we had some nice sunset views while we were doing that anyway, because the sun was going down. And that was the lesson today. A few successful manoeuvres, a few terrible manoeuvres. I hope I get more time next time, which is next Monday, to squeeze some more manoeuvres in. But I was thinking of asking Tony maybe do a moor drive like I'm used to through Harford Bridge up to Princetown, up to Yelverton, and then get the bus back, do something like that, because then I get a little bit of more driving experience and parking on the moor and stuff. But we'll see what happens. That's next Monday anyway. I also think I'm probably going to skip a few weeks in December just because of the costs. I'm going to pay him for one last block of 10, which will bring me up to 4 blocks of 10-hour lessons with him. Then after that, it's going to be just like through January I do the odd single lesson to try and get us up to test standard. Like maybe 3 of those, maybe 4 of those, I don't know. And hopefully he'll get me alright for the driving test on the 30th of Jan. Anyway, that was today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.